Good afternoon, my name is Alexey Grigoriev. I'm from St. Petersburg State University. And the title of my presentation is Acoustic Features of Speech of Typically Developing Children aged 5–16 years old. The study is financially supported by Russian Science Foundation. The speech system consists of the central and peripheral parts. The production of voice message is possible only with their joint participation. The central part is represented by cortical centers, located mainly in the left hemisphere. This is the Wernicke's area and Broca's area, which are responsible for the formation of the concept of voice communication and the speech utterances motor program. The peripheral part of the speech system includes the energetic part, the sound generator is another part, and articulatory part. The energetic part, primary lungs, is responsible for the process of speech breathing, which differ from ordinary breathing with a short inhalation, a long pause, and a long exhalation following it. In the larynx, due to the presence of vocal folds, the outgoing air stream is voiced, and the frequency of oscillation of the vocal folds determines the pitch values. Articulatory processes occurring on the oral cavities determine the form and structure of vowels. In the process of growing a child, the shape and configuration of the vocal tract changes, which is reflected in specific acoustic parameters. At this moment, the characteristics of the vocalizations of infants and toddlers have been well studied. Acoustic characteristics of speech of typically developing children of preschool age, younger school children and adolescents on the material of the English language. Normative data on the acoustic characteristic of the speech of Russian-speaking children recorded at the recorded at typical situations on Russian-speaking children is absent, which made it possible to formulate the purpose of the present study. The aim of the study is to determine the age dynamics of temporal and spectral characteristics of vowels in words in 5–16 years old Russian children, depending on the gender and the age of the child. The object of the study was the speech of 240 typically developed children aged 5–16 years, 10 boys and girls in each age. Speech was recorded in middle school during an experimental dialogue with the child. The design of the study included the measurement of anthropometric parameters, height and weight for the child, recording dialogue of the experiment with the child, instrumental speech analysis. Instrumental analysis was carried out in the program Cool Edit Pro. We analyzed the duration of stressed and unstressed vowels and the stationary part of vowels and pitch values and the values of first and second formants. Perceptual speech analysis, phonetic analysis of speech, statistics, and the creating a database of child speech aged 8–16 years. The standard set of experimental questions addressed to the child was used. The experimenter begins a dialogue with a child with request to say your name and age. Then the experimenter consistently asked questions. Do you like to go to school or kindergarten? What are your favorite tasks and why? Do you have any hobbies? What are your favorite movies, cartoons, books or games? Do you have brothers or sisters? And do you have pets? And did you visit the zoo, circus and museums? According to the values of the formant frequencies, the parameters reflecting the clarity of the articulation were determined. The areas of the formant triangles and the vowel articulation index. The aim of perceptual analysis was to recognize the lexical meanings of words cut out from the context of the phrase by native speakers. 42 test sequences were created. Each test sequence consisted of 30 words. Each word was repeated 3 times. The intervals between the presentation of different words were 15 seconds. Between repetition, 5 seconds. The study involved 543 adult speakers of the Russian language listeners. All listeners didn't have previously identified hearing impairments. The words used in the composition of the test sequences are transcribed by a professional phonetician using the symbols of the International Phonetic Alphabet and the SAMPA system for the Russian language. We use statistical analysis, Mann-Whitney and Kruskal-Wallis tests, regression, multi-regression, and the discriminant analysis. On the basis of the instrumental analysis, the dynamics of the duration of the stressed and unstressed vowels, as well as the stationary parts in the words of children 5-16 years old, are established. Histogram A, data for girls, histogram B, data for boys. Horizontal axis age years, vertical axis duration milliseconds. Lines with a square mark the values of the duration of stressed vowels, with a triangle markers the duration of unstressed vowels, round markers the duration of the stationary parts of stressed vowels, X mark is the stationary parts of unstressed vowels. It was shown that the duration of stressed vowels from the words of girls increases at 6-7 years, that decreases at 9-11 and stabilizes at 13-16 years old. The duration of unstressed vowels from girls stabilizes by the age of 13 years. The duration of the stationary parts of stressed and unstressed vowels from the words of girls is stable, starting at the age of 9 years. The duration of stressed vowels from the words of boys is maximal at 5 years old. And also stabilizes by the age of 13 years. The duration of the stationary parts of stressed and unstressed vowels is stable at 9, 12, and 13, 16 years. Our data on the stabilization of stressed and unstressed vowels duration up to the age of 13 years may point at the end of speech breathing developing at this age. Stressed and unstressed vowel speech values dynamics with child's age is traced. At this slide you can see the pitch values of the vowels of the words in girls, histogram A, and boys, histogram B. On the horizontal axis age years, vertical axis pitch values hertz. The red columns are the meanings of the stressed vowels, the blue columns are the values of the unstressed vowels. It was shown that pitch values of the words of girls significantly reduced at the age 5-8 years and decrease and are stable at the age of 9-13 years and 14-16 years. Pitch of stressed vowels were higher than those of unstressed vowels in the words of girls at 8 and 16 years old. Pitch of stressed vowels were higher. The meanings of stressed vowels from the words of boys are higher than the meanings of the unstressed vowels at 14 and 16 years old. And the maximal pitch of stressed vowels and unstressed vowels on boys obtained at 5 years old. Then pitch values decrease and stabilizes at 6-8 years, 9-11 years, and 12-14 years, and minimal in 16 years old. Our data on the age-related decline in these pitch values are confirmed by the data on the material in English and Korean languages, but the information of the age differences in the pitch values is contradictory. Changes in the pitch values are associated with change in the linear dimensions and configuration of the vocal tract, and according to some authors, this may be due to the morphofunctional maturation of the vocal folds and the improvement of neuromuscular control. The pitch values of the stressed and unstressed vowels were compared. Histogram A, data for stressed vowels, for histogram B, data for unstressed vowels. On the horizontal axis, age years, vertical axis, pitch hertz, red column, data for girls, blue column, data for boys. We have shown that the frequency values of the pitch of the stressed vowels from the words of girls are higher than the values of the pitch from the words of the boys at 6, 7, 8, 13, and 16 years old. The meaning of the unstressed vowels from the words of girls are higher than from the words of boys at 6, 13, 14, at 16 years old. The meaning of the unstressed vowels are higher from the words of the boys than from the words of girls at the age of 5 and 11 years old. In other ages, the differences between the meaning of pitch from the words of boys and girls are not significant for stressed and unstressed vowels. Pitch values reflect the processes occurring at the level of the vocal folds, and the main articulation processes occur in the oral cavity. The values of the first two formants are acoustic keys and reflect the clarity of vowel articulation. According to the formant frequencies of the stressed vowels in the coordinates of the first and second formant, formant triangles are constructed with the apexes A, U, and E from words of girls, histogram A, and boys, histogram B. Horizontal axis, values of the first formant, hertz, vertical axis, values of the second formant, hertz. Bold lines, the data for 5 and 16 years old. Other lines, the data for other ages. It is shown that formant triangles with age of children are shifted to the low frequency region. In girls, this shift occurs before the age of 14, and in boys before the age of 16 years. Revealed differences in the values of vowel articulation index and formant triangle areas with the age of boys and girls are indirectly confirmed by the data on the material of the Chinese language about the significant decrease in the values of the first two formants in the speech of children in the age range 3–18 years. The study did not reveal a clear link between the onset of puberty and changes in the formant characteristics of vowels, as evidenced by data on the absence of relationship between testosterone levels and the decrease in formant frequencies. At this histogram, you can see articulation index of stressed vowels. Vowel articulation index of stressed vowels from girls and boys was changed with children's age non-linearly. Horizontal axis age years, vertical axis vowel articulation index, conventional units, red columns data for girls, blue columns data for boys. The end of the preschool period is characterized by the maximum values of vowel articulation index for boys at the age of 6 years, for girls at the age of 7 years, which can be explained by preparing children for schooling and the need for active use of verbal communication in the learning process. At the age of 8 years, vowel articulation index are high and similar for boys and girls. A further decrease in vowel articulation index may be due to the increased influence of speech and the termination of the articulation skills mastering. At this histogram, you can see areas of vowels, formant triangles. The minimum values of the areas of the formant triangles of stressed vowels from the words of girls for the age of 11 and 12 years. From the words of the boys for the age of 11, 14 and 15 years. The values of formant triangle areas of stressed vowels from girls' words are higher versus boys' words except the age of 10, 11 and 12 years. The phonetic analysis revealed that children use normative phonemes for Russian language in words at the age of 8–16 years. Some differences in pronunciation related to individual features of the child, and they do not affect the lexical meanings of the words. The statistical analysis revealed that the gender of child correlates with pitch frequency, pitch intensity, normalized intensity of the first formant, and normalized intensity of the second formant. Girl's age correlates with pitch frequency and duration of vowels. Girl's height correlates with pitch frequency, duration of vowels. Girl's weight correlates with pitch frequency, duration of vowels, and first formant frequency. Boy's age correlates with pitch frequency and duration of vowels. Boy's height correlates with pitch frequency, normalized intensity of the first formant, and duration of vowels and first formant frequency. Boy's weight correlates pitch frequency, normalized intensity of the first formant, and duration of vowels and first formant frequency. The obtained data on the acoustic features of the speech of typical developing children can be used as a normative basis on artificial intelligence systems for teaching children, for creating alternative communication systems for children with atypical development, for automatic recognition of child speech, and for teaching children the clarity of pronunciation based on the use of acoustic feedback. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you for the talk. We have 15 minutes for the questions, for discussions. Let's start. Questions? No questions. However, I'm not a professional in speech recognition. I usually don't understand this field, but I'm very curious about the difficulty of the data acquisition process. How is it difficult to gather data? So you have recordings and...
Yes, we recorded the child speech, and we recorded the we record audio and video with moving experimentators with child, and we analyzed speech. We analyzed previously vowels, because the vowels is acoustic keys for forming of articulation. And more difficulties for this process is parameters of child speech, because there is a very high frequency and automatical systems don't recognize these parameters. And we must do all measuring by hours, not automatically, and this is more difficult for in our work. But our data can be used for automatic recognition in the future.
Okay, more questions? I have one more question actually. So you came up with a set of features, like as far as I understood, the graphs you showed, you seen that the child's height is a significant feature for how the child speaks, right?
No, not how the child speech. We say about correlations with concretical acoustical parameters of voice. It's not influence for recognizing the speech. It's for recognizing by listeners, by native speakers. These parameters can influence for recognizing to automatical system.
So you cannot recognize the height by the voice?
We measured height and weight, and we analyzed and we to do some statistical analysis, and we find this correlates. We not speak that it's can do it adult speaker. It's do it child speech.
Okay, great. So more questions? Okay, I think I have the last question for this talk. I'm really not aware of our applications of these technologies, because I know it's including text, things, and so on. What are the possible applications of these results?
These results can be applied at speech system. We made child speech base that consists of speech of typical developing children. We try to analyze speech of atypical developing children. It's Down syndrome, mental retardation, and others. And if we try to help these childs or adults we must have information about typical developing children and typical developing speech. And if we can do automatical systems that may training the atypical developing children, we must have etalon speech. And that's all.
Okay, got it. So I think very impressive work. Good luck with the new results. I've seen no raised hands, so I assume no questions so far. Thank you.